Hello friends, starting with today's lecture. In previous lecture, we started with second prescription. In this, we see first the definition of second prescription. That is, the second prescription is the one that is made after first has acted. That we call it as a second prescription. That is, which is given after the first prescription and the first one which has acted. That we call it as a second prescription. Then after this we study the need of second prescription. In need of second prescription we study about the first prescription has acted well but further relief has halted. In that case we have the need of second prescription. Then a new set of symptoms unrelated to the old one appears. Then there is a acute exacerbation of chronic diseases. In that cases also we require a second prescription. Then symptoms disappear but no relief is felt. Then symptoms disappear irregularly without following Hering's law. In that case also we require a second prescription. Then a miasm is active either singly or in combination. In that case also we require a second prescription. And the disease has progressed from the functional stage to the affecting the organs of the body. In that case also we require the second prescription. So this is the second point, that is the need of second prescription. Now the third point, that is the types of second prescription. In types of second prescription, the second prescription may be the repetition of the first prescription. It may be the change in potency. It may be change in remedy. It may be alteration of remedies. It can be use of intercurrent remedies. It can be use of isopathy and no source, or it can be a use of miasmatic remedies. So these are the different types of second prescription that can be given as a second prescription. So in this, the first one, repetition of the remedies. So what is the repetition of the remedies? That is when it is indicated. So it is indicated, that is repetition of the first prescription is indicated when the disappeared symptom has appeared. That is when disappeared symptom appeared in a patient. In that case also we can repeat the same remedy. And also the repetition should be in the same potency and in the same doses as on the previous occasions. So this is repetition of the first remedy. Then change in potency. A change in potency is indicated when the response is no longer obtainable. That is, if you cannot make a response after the first prescription, in that cases you can change the potency of that remedy. Then in case of no source, instead of repeating the same potency, one should rather move on to the next higher potency in order to avoid undesirable aggravation. So this can be the indications for change in a potency. It also indicates that when the highest potency in the scale has been reached with adequate reaction, and the very often sensitivity to the lower potency like 30 gets re-established and one can revert to it with advantage. Then the third one, that is change in remedy. The change in remedy when it is indicated, that is a change in remedy will be indicated only if the symptomatology indicates a definite change in the picture. That is, you see a change in the symptomatology of a patient. In that case you can change the remedy of that patient. Then minor changes should not be considered significant to change the remedy. In these cases one should always use the relationship section. That is, when you use the change in remedy, in that cases you use the relationship section of the remedy. That is, it can be a complementary remedy, it can be a cognate remedy, and accordingly. Then a case which has ceased to progress, further will be another indication for changing the prescription. That is, a case which has ceased to progress, further will be another indication for the changing prescription. And also in these instances miasmatic history might indicate some no source. That is, there may be some necessity of some no source. At times a remedy like sulfur or sorinum might be indicated as an intercurrent remedy which restores the sensitivity to the constitutional remedy. So in that cases you can use the intercurrent remedy under the head of change of a remedy. Then a severe aggravation or response contrary to law of direction of cure might require exhibition of the antidote. That is, in that case, by change of remedy may be an antidote of that remedy. Then a chronic case with adequate repertorial analysis with therapeutic pocketbook represents not only the constitutional remedy but also acute remedies and intercurrent remedies. That is, you can use a constitutional remedy but also acute remedies and the intercurrent remedies. Then, as soon as the acute trouble is over, the administration of the constitutional remedy shorten the convulsions. So, these are the indications for the change in the remedies. The next type is the alteration of the remedies. So, when it is indicated to alteration of the remedies, in this will have to be considered in acute case with symptomatology alternating between the two definite groups. That is, bryonia can be altered with rustox or rustox can be altered with bryonia. So this can be needed in alterations of the symptoms, that is alteration of the remedies. Then you can use an intercurrent remedy as one of the type of a second prescription. In this, intercurrent remedies, especially anti-miasmatic remedy, can be given in cases where the action of the well indicated remedy gets blocked. That is, when you prescribe a medicine as a chronic constitutional medicines to the patient and in between you found some block in the treatment or indicated remedy gets blocked, in that cases you may require an intercurrent remedy which can complete the action of that constitutional remedy, and in between that intercurrent remedy may be an anti-miasmatic remedy. So this is one of the type of second prescription, that is intercurrent remedies. Then in this you also use, that is isopathy and nosodes. So in this, in case of a definite history of contact with some chemical or drug with severe allergic reaction, the same chemical or drug administered in high potency is known to have been cured. So in this, if there is a severe allergic reaction or poisoning of some chemicals or drug, in that you can use the same chemical or drug in a high potentized form to the patient that may cure that patient. In some septic conditions, nosodes like staphylococcine or streptococcine in potencies beyond 30 have been proved very helpful. That is, if the patient is suffering from severe septicemia, in that case he is having the affection of streptococci or staphylococci. In that case, you can use the nosodes like staphylococcine and streptococcine, which are prepared from the secretions of streptococci and staphylococci in a potency form, that is beyond 30, and that can be very helpful to cure that septicemia. So this is the use of isopathy and nosodes. In this, variolinum, morbillinum or influenzinum etc. have been employed slowly on indication that ill health dated from an attack of smallpox, measles or influenza. So these are the use of isopathy and nosodes as a second prescription. Then we see the miasmatic remedy as a second prescription. In this, in obscure cases, a history of vaccination may suggest remedies like thuja or malandrinum, which may either cure or clear it up and furnishes good indications for the constitutional remedy. In mixed miasmatic case, where the entire picture does not indicate any single remedy, in that cases you have to use the miasmatic remedy. Miasmatic remedy may be antipsychotic remedy, anti-psoric remedy or antisyphilitic remedies. So this is the use of a miasmatic remedy as a second prescription. So these are the different types of second prescription. So along with this type, in book also there are different types of second prescription. So in this we are studying the different types of second prescription. So from PPT we complete these second prescription as a repetition, change in potency, change in remedy, alteration of remedies, intercurrent remedies, isopathy and nosodes and miasmatic remedies. Now The next type of second prescription is complementary remedy. And what is complementary remedy? That is, according to Dr. Clark says, when a remedy has done all that is it can in a case, then another remedy is likely to follow up and complete its action, both being related to the case. So this may be the that is complementary remedy. When a remedy has done all that it can in a case, then another remedy is likely to follow up and complete its action, both being related to the case. That is, the both remedies which are having the relation with each other, and when one complete its action and to complete the cure, then there is a need of a second remedy, and that we call it as a complementary remedy. So in this, Dr. Bonninghausen says some remedies are in harmony with others, but the most similar one as a rule are complementary. In this, some remedies are in harmony with others, the most similar one as a rule are complementary remedies. So in this, they describe the different types of complementary remedy. In complementary remedy, they give the three types of complementary remedy as: first, acute to chronic complementary; second type as a natural complementary remedies; and third type as a acute to acute complementary remedy. So in this, acute to chronic complementary remedy is a first type, and in this they gave the examples like aconite is chronic complementary to sulfur. That is, aconite having a chronic complementary remedy as a sulfur. The next example is Bryonia having a chronic complementary remedy alumina. Then colocynth having a chronic complementary remedy Staphylos aureus, and Hippar having a chronic complementary remedy silica. Then the second type is natural complementary remedy, as it is found in a nature as a complementary remedy to each other, and in this they give the examples like antimetat having the natural complementary remedy ipecac, then apis having natrum mur, argentum nitricum having natrum mur, then stannum mat having pulsatilla, and phosphorus having a carbobate. These are natural complementary remedies. Then the third type of complementary remedy is the acute to acute complementary remedy, and in this the acute to acute complementary remedies examples are Bryonia to rust ox, Baratacarp to Dulcamara, aconite to spongium, arsenic to thuja, allium cepa to phosphorus, china to carbobate, and phosphorus to carbobate and arsenic. So these are the acute to acute complementary remedy. So these are the three types of complementary remedy. Then what is the indication for a complementary remedy? So indications for complementary remedy in this: if after continued improvement for several hours or days by the first prescription, the symptom do not completely disappear, rather there is a tendency to persist. That is, if you prescribe some medicine to a patient and patient having an improvement in his complaint, but there is no total disappearance of the symptoms and the action of first medicine is completed, in that cases you require some other medicine which having a relation to the first remedy, and that remedy we call it as a complementary remedy, and we can give the second prescription as this complementary remedy. This complementary remedy completes the action of a first remedy and brings a cure in a patient. So this is the indication of complementary remedy. In this they also explain the example of this complementary remedy as: during dentition of children, some gets fever and convulsion relapsed after being relieved by belladonna. They need calcarea carb. That is, the children is suffering from a dentition, having a complaint of fever and convulsion, that of relapsed condition, and after being relieved by belladonna. That is, when you prescribe belladonna, his complaints are relieved, but there is not complete recovery. So in that case you may require a calcarea carb, which is a chronic complementary to the belladonna. So this is the example of complementary remedy. Then the second type we are going to discuss again, that is the antidotal remedy. What is mean by antidotal remedy? So in this, the next type of second prescription, that is antidotal remedy. So in this antidotal remedy, the word comes from the Stedman's medical dictionary, which reveals that anti means what is given, that is an agent that neutralizes the poison or counteracts its effect. That is what is mean by anti. It means the opposite, and it is an agent that neutralizes the poison and counteracts its effects. So the use of antidote or antidote can be of defensive or offensive types. That is, he divided the antidote into two types, that is defensive type of antidote and second one offensive type of antidote. So generally as a measure, that is what is mean by defensive type of antidote. In this, generally as a measure of countering the effects of wrong prescription. That is, in this, the defensive type means there is a generally as a measure of countering the effects of a wrong prescription. That is, if you give some medicine and it gives some wrong prescription, acts as a wrong prescription, in that case we give the antidote, and that antidote we call it as a defensive type, means it acts as a defensive mechanism to that wrong prescription. And the second type of antidote is offensive type. So what is mean by offensive type? That is to cure the disease by fresh case taking and selecting the remedy after apply it. That is offensive type, means to cure the disease, that you give the medicine, that is the patient having no any relief, or there is a wrong suffering of a patient. In that case, when to cure the disease by fresh case taking and selecting the remedy after apply it, that we call it as a offensive type of antidote. So in this, they gave the different examples regarding the defensive type of antidote and offensive type of antidote. So first example is the examples of antidoted, that is sulfur antidoted by camphor, arsenic, nux vomica, pulsatilla, sepia, silica. Then thuja antidoted by camphor, then pulsatilla, then sulfur, then merxol antidoted by arsenic, bryonia, carbobage, etc. So these are the second type of second prescription, that is antidote. So in this, there are different indications of using of antidote. So what are the indications of using the antidote? In this, the first indication is that if the first prescription makes no improvement in the general well-being of the patient, it is unfavorable and has been antidoted in offensive manner. That is, if the first prescription makes no improvement in the general well-being of the patient, there is no any relief in a patient after the first prescription, and it is unfavorable and has to be antidoted in offensive manner. That is, you have to retake the case, fresh case taking, and you have to prescribe the next remedy, and that we will call as a antidoted in an offensive manner. Then the second indication for antidote is when age and vitality of the subject cannot withstand the medicinal aggravation, it has to be antidoted in a defensive manner. That is, when the age and the vitality of the subject cannot withstand the medical aggravation, it has to be antidoted in a defensive manner. That is, if there occurs some medicinal aggravation, in that case you have to antidote it in a defensive manner. Then when the structural change has advanced to a point of irreversibility to avoid painful aggravation. In this, the third indication for antidote is that when the structural change has advanced to a point of irreversibility to avoid painful aggravation, you have to antidote that case where there is a structural changes occur in a patient. You have to antidote that medicine. Then the next indication is where a new set of vexatious and the distressing symptoms appears. There is a appearance of some distressing symptoms. In that case also you have to antidote the remedy. Then next indication is where the symptom disappear but no relief is felt in a patient. This may be the indication for the antidote of that remedy. Then next, where the symptom disappear against the Hering's law. That is, the symptoms disappear but they are against the Hering's law of cure. In that case also you have to antidote that first remedy. So an antidote may also take the form of the same remedy in lower or higher potency. So these are the different indications of prescribing the antidote as a second prescription to the patient. So after this we are going to discuss the next, that is repetition of the remedy. So repetition of the remedy, it will be given in case or it will be indicated, that is explained in aphorism number 247, and in this it is a technique by which a remedy is given a second or more times in a modifier or a higher potency. That is, we give the same remedy, it can be in a same potency or it can be in a higher potency, that we call it as a repetition of a remedy, and it is described in aphorism number 247. Then in acute case, if the improvement lasts for a very short time, after which sharp aggravation takes place, it indicates that the inflammatory process is great, and so the medicine should be frequently repeated in modified doses. So what is the indication of repetition of the remedy? In this, the first, that is in acute case, if the improvement lasts for a very short time, after which a sharp aggravation takes place, it indicates that the inflammatory process is great, and so the medicine should be frequently repeated in modified doses in a patient. Then the next indication for repetition of remedy is in chronic case, the symptoms after being partially relieved for some time tend to aggravate or the original symptoms reappear. The second prescription should be a repetition of the remedy in higher potency. That is, in chronic cases, what is the indication of repetition? That is, the symptoms after being partially relieved for some time, there is relief of symptoms for some time, tend to aggravate or the original symptom reappear, and after this there is aggravation or the original symptoms reappear. In that, the second prescription should be a repetition of the first remedy but in a higher potency. Then the next indication of repetition of the remedy is even if the patient complains that he feels worse, we have to wait and watch for the return of the original symptoms before repeating the dose. That is, even if the patient complains that he feels worse, we have to wait and watch for return of the original symptoms before repeating the dose. If we see the original symptoms reappeared, in that case we have to repeat that dose. And if the symptoms change but the patient feels good, the remedy is not to be changed. Then the next indication is return of the original symptom of the patient is the indication for the repetition of the remedy. So these are the different indication which indicates the repetition of the remedy, which is explained in aphorism number 247. Then the next type is change of remedy. In this, what are the different indications in which we have to change the remedy as a second prescription? So in this, when new symptoms appear after the first prescription, that is, there is appearance of a new symptoms after the first prescription, in that case it means the remedy was wrong and here a new remedy is needed while making a second prescription. So in that case we have to need a new remedy as a second prescription. Then also in mixed miasmatic diseases, with predominance of psora, the psoric symptoms may subside after the application of antisoric medicine. In the first prescription, but the patient may suddenly develop a syphilitic ulcer in the throat or multiple warts in different parts of a body. When then, in our second prescription, give antisyphilitic or antipsychotic drug. Several such changes in the plan of treatment may be necessary to cure the mixed miasmatic diseases. So, in this, they explain one example regarding the change of remedy. That is, you have to change the remedy when there is the appearance of new group of symptoms. And the next indication for change of remedy is, that is, the in mixed miasmatic diseases with predominance of psora. That is, patient is suffering from psoric symptoms and you give the medicine as an antipsoric medicine in the first prescription, but suddenly the patient develops a syphilitic ulcer in the throat or multiple warts in different parts of a body. In that case, when then in a second prescription, you have to prescribe them as an antisyphilitic remedy or antipsychotic remedy. And several such changes in the plan of treatment may be necessary to cure the mixed miasmatic diseases. So these are the different indications of change of remedy. Then next is regarding the cognates. So what is mean by cognates, or what is the use of a cognates? So in this, cognate remedy can be used as a second prescription. So in this, cognate remedies which are closely related to one another, that we call it as a cognate remedy. The remedies which are closely related to one another, that remedy we call it as a cognate remedy. And that cognate remedy are necessary in some cases where one remedy act to fail, we have to use the next remedy or the remedy which is similar to that first remedy, that we call it as a cognate remedy. So in this, they give the different examples of cognate remedy. So what are the different examples of cognate remedy? As we have Nux vomica and Cephia, Silica and Hippursulf, Bryonia and Rustox. That is, these are the cognate remedies: Nux vomica and Cephia, Silica and Hippursulf, Bryonia and Rustox, which confirm the above treatment. That is, these remedies are so closely related that usually the symptoms of one constitutional remedy give clear indications for the administration of the other remedy. That is, these remedies are so closely related that usually the symptoms of one constitutional remedy give the clear indication for the administration of the other remedy. And in this, after the administration of the first prescription, the emerging totality changed from the previous totality of the symptom. So these are the different remedy which are closely related to one another. In that, if first remedy is not acting, we have to use the cognate remedy of that remedy that is closely related to the first remedy. So in this, during the course of treatment of chronic disease, any acute disease or symptom supervenes, that is, the second prescription would be a cognate of first prescription. That is, we have to use the cognate remedy of the first prescription. As for example, causticum is a first prescription for acute case. After application of causticum, all the symptoms are relieved, but suddenly the patient gets on acute attack of sciatica. Now a cognate of causticum like colocynth should be our second prescription, which gives the immediate relief to the patient on his acute symptom, after which causticum may come in again for a complete cure. So in this, they give the example of causticum and the colocynth, which are cognate remedy of each other. So in this, the patient is suffering from the complaints, and in this, when that is, uh, he used the causticum as a first prescription and the symptoms of a patient gets relieved, but suddenly the patient gets on attack of sciatica. Now a cognate remedy of causticum like colocynth should be our second prescription, which gives immediate relief to the patient. And in this case, we use the colocynth as a cognate remedy of causticum as a second prescription. So this is the use of a cognate remedy as a second prescription. And after the relief of that sciatica, the causticum may come in again for a complete cure. That is, for complete cure, you have to give the causticum again once again. So this is the indication of giving the cognate remedy. So in this, they also explain the difference between the cognate remedy and complementary remedy. So what is the difference between cognate remedy and complementary remedy? As here we see cognate remedy, here new category of symptom developed from the first prescription in cognate remedy. Here new category of symptoms develop from the first prescription in cognate remedy. And in complementary remedy, the character of a symptoms remains the same and slightly more than the first prescription. That is, the indication are the same for complementary remedy. That is, the symptom remains the same and slightly more than the first prescription in complementary remedy. Then in cognate remedy, the intensity is severe. That is, there is a severe intensity of symptoms. And in complementary remedy, there is not so remarkable or markable severity of a symptoms in complementary remedy. Then the next difference is that it has prominent etiology than that of a first prescription in cognate remedy. That is, it has a prominent etiology than that of a first prescription. And in complementary remedy, it has same etiology except in mixed miasmatic causes. That is, complementary remedy having the same etiology except in mixed miasmatic causes. So this is the difference between cognate remedy and the complementary remedy. So this may be cognate or complementary remedy. These are the different types of second prescription, as we can give them as a second prescription. Then what is the indication of low potency remedy? This is the next type of a second prescription, that is low potency remedy. So in this, the low potency remedies are used in the second prescription in incurable cases. A case is deemed incurable when the first prescription, that is, in first prescription you give the higher potency, but in sometimes in second prescription you may require a low potency in some incurable cases, or where there is a structural changes occurs in a patient, or patient goes in a deep pathological changes. In that cases you may require a low potency in second prescription to the patient where disease is incurable. And in this, a case is deemed incurable when the first prescription does not evoke reaction from the patient, and this condition continues to deteriorates, and this relieves only for a short time and then produces a continuous aggravation, then acts adversely for a long period with worsening of patient's health, and causes disappearance of symptoms not following the Herring's law. So these are the different indication where you can use a low potency remedy. So these are the different types of second prescription. It may be a use of a complementary remedy. It can be use of an antidote remedy. It can be use of a cognate remedy. It can be use of a repetition of the remedy. It can be a change of remedy. It can be a change of potency. Then these are the different types of second prescription. So now we will see what is the gist of second prescription. In this, the gist means what is the types of second prescription, what is this main indication where you have to give the second prescription. So in this, the first type is repetition. And what is his indication? When the original symptoms return having the same generals and particulars as formerly. That is, when you have to repeat the medicine when the original symptom returns having the same generals and particulars as formerly. That is, original symptoms reappear is the indication for repetition. Then second type is antidote. And what is the indication of antidote? In this, when the case comes to a standstill, appearance of a lot of new symptoms after the first prescription, not belonging to the pathogenesis of the medicine, not even to the old symptom. That is, when you have to give the antidote when the case comes to a standstill, and therewith along with this, appearance of a lot of new symptoms after the first prescription and not belonging to the pathogenesis of medicine, not even to the old symptom. In that cases, you have to give the antidote as a second prescription. Then third one, that is change of the remedy. What is the indication of change of remedy? That is appearance of striking new group of symptoms leading to an entire change of the base of the symptom. That is appearance of a striking new group of symptoms leading to an entire change of base of the symptom. So these are the indication of change of remedy. Along with this also, symptoms changed but the patient is improving. That is symptoms changed but the patient is improving. In that case, there is no need of change of remedy. But the symptom changed but the patient is not improving. In that case, you have to change the remedy. Then do not leave that remedy until one or more dose of a higher potency has been given and tested without effect. That is, before changing the remedy, you have to increase the potency or dose of that medicine and prescribe to the patient, and if it cannot show any effect, then you have to change the remedy. Then the next type is complementary. And what is the indication of complementary remedy? That is, first medicine is an acute one and is to be completed with the constitutional medicine for the completion of cure. That is, to complete the cure of any remedy, you have to prescribe the complementary remedy. The next type is cognate remedy. What is cognate remedy? That is, these medicines are so closely related to each other that a medicine always tends to one of its cognates. That is, the medicines which are closely related to one another, that we call it as a cognate remedy, and this can be required in some cases to complete the cure of that patient. Then next type is change of plan of treatment. So what is the indication for change of plan of treatment? That is, when the symptoms of another miasm has come in prominence with disappearance of symptoms of previous miasm treated. That is, when there is a change in miasm, in that case you have to change the plan of treatment. So these are the different indications of different types of second prescription. So in this, the three rules of Dr. Hahnemann explain as there are three mistakes which the physician cannot to carefully avoid. That is, while practicing the homeopathy, the physician cannot carefully avoid these three mistakes. So what are these three mistakes? The first is to suppose that the doses the first is to suppose that the doses which I have indicated as the proper doses in the treatment of chronic diseases, and which long experience and close observation have induced me to adopt, are too small. That is, this is the first mistake which physician done. Then the second great mistake is the improper use of a remedy. That is the second mistake. And the third mistake consists in not letting the remedy act a sufficient length of time. This is given in Chronic Diseases Volume 1. So these are the three mistakes can be done by physician while practicing the homeopathy. So in this, along with this, we are going to discuss the one important point, that is, what is the philosophical background of a second prescription. That is, philosophical background of second prescription. So in this, I will explain what is the philosophical background of second prescription. So in this way, up till now we finished the second prescription. That is, the first point, definition of second prescription. Then second point, the need of second prescription. And the third point, the different types of second prescription and their indications. In that, you have to explain at the last the gist of second prescription. That is, the type of second prescription and what is the indication of second prescription. So after completing the second prescription, we will see one important point, that is philosophical background of second prescription. What is the philosophical background of second prescription? So in this, the aggravation of existing symptoms may come on with mental improvement of the patient, which occurs well, but if aggravation of the symptom is attended with decline of the patient, the cure is doubtful and the case must be handled with extreme care, as seldom such patient recover perfectly. So what is given in this? Aggravation of existing symptoms may come on with mental improvement of the patient, which occurs well, but if aggravation of a symptoms is attended with decline of the patient, the cure is doubtful. In that case, the cure is doubtful and the case may be handled with extreme care, as a seldom such patient recover perfectly. So in this, when action of a remedy has ceased, then and only then can we trust the symptom constituting the true picture. That is, when the action of a remedy has ceased, there is a stoppage of action of remedy, and then only we can trust the symptom constituting the true picture. When the symptom come back unchanged after prudent waiting, and when repetition of the same remedy fails to act, a higher one will generally benefit quick promptly, as did the lower one at the first. When one or more symptoms reappear and no new symptom, the remedy should not be changed until the highest and the higher potency have been tried. Then it is the time for the next prescription. The last appearing symptom shall be the guide to the next remedy. So, this is the indication where you can give the second prescription. So, this latest symptom will appear in the amnesis as the best related to some medicines having it as a characteristic, which will most likely have the rest of the symptoms. It is not to be supposed that this latest appearing symptom is an old symptom on its way to final departure. For so long as old symptoms come back and go, it is granted that no medicine is to be thought of. In this, it is an error to change the medicine when a symptom image is changing. The physician must wait for firmness of the symptom before making a prescription. Some say, I must give the patient medicine or he will go and get someone else. I have only to say that it were better had all sick folks gone somewhere else, for these doctors seldom cure but often complicate the sickness. The acute expressions of a chronic case have a different management from the acute disease. That is, child suffers from bronchitis at every change of weather and may grow worse and worse if treated with a chronic remedy for the acute symptoms. The miasm that predisposes the child to recurrent attacks must be considered. The acute attack needs to be managed by acute remedy. So, in this, when there is a chronic condition also, but the patient is suffering from acute state of that chronic disease, in that case, you require acute remedy to treat that acute symptom and not the constitutional remedy. And when Western ague is complicated with a miasm, a single paroxysmus does not fully express the totality, but several must be grouped and the true image will be discovered. If the acute disease be uncomplicated with a miasm, the indicated acute remedy will wipe it out. Then, in grave conditions, haste is to common error more frequently with the second prescription than with the first. Many doctors suppose that diphtheria demands a immediate medicine because something must be done. This is wrong, as many a life has been saved by waiting and watching. That is, while prescribing medicine, you do not be hurry up. That is, in some cases, there may be some waiting and watching that may cure the patient. then the object of first prescription is to set the vital current or motion in a direction favorable to restoring the equilibrium, and when this is attained, it must not be disturbed by new inferences. Ignorance in this sphere has cost many lives. There can be no fixed time for making the second prescription. It may be months. The second prescription must be one that has a friendly relation to the last one or the last but one or the preceding. No intelligent prescription can be made without knowledge of the last remedies. That is, while prescribing, you must have a knowledge about the last remedies that the patient taken. Then concordances in Bonning-Hussein's must not be ignored. The new remedy should sustain a complementary relation to the former. That is, while using the remedy, you must know the relationship of the remedies. Then, in managing the chronic sickness, the remedy that conforms to the acute experience of illness is worth knowing, as very often its chronic may be just the one that is needed. Calcarea is the natural chronic of belladonna, and Rustox natramur sustains the same relation with apis and ignatia, silica to pulsatilla, sulfur to aconite. The fact that pulsatilla has been of great service in a given case and finally helps no longer, but the symptoms now point to the silicea. The latter will be given with confidence as their complementary relation has long been established. On the other hand, causticum and phosphorus does not work after each other, nor will apis do well after rustox. So, this is the relationship of remedy, and you must keep in mind while prescribing the remedy the relationship of remedies. Many physicians make a correct first prescription, and the patient does well and cheers up for a while until the choice is made for the second, and then all is lost. Homeopathy is nothing if not true, and if true, the greatest accuracy deals with accuracy of details, and methods should be followed. Fortunately, the physician who repeat while the remedies acting are such poor prescribers, or their death toll would be enormous. That is, this is the philosophical background of second prescription, and this the which points are described. That is, while prescribing the medicine, you must be confident about the prescription of remedy, that is as a second prescription. Giving the first prescription is easy, but giving the second prescription, it require a knowledge and a study of that case accurately, and what is happening to the patient is it is most important. And for this reason, you must know the relationship of remedies while prescribing the remedies. Then you have the stamina to wait and watch according to the case of a patient. Then in some cases, you may require an acute remedy for acute complaint if the patient is suffering from chronic disease also. Then you have to know the perfect relationship of that remedies while giving. That is, it may be a cognate remedy, it may be a complementary remedy, or there may be some intercurrent remedy, or the miasmatic relationship of the remedies. The total knowledge you must know, and that is, giving the first prescription is easy, but giving the second prescription is a risky task, and for this reason you must have the thorough knowledge regarding the practice of homeopathy. And only repeating the remedy is not a good job. That is, repeat a same remedy for number of times, it is not a good job, or it is such poor prescribers, and these prescribers cannot give a complete cure to the patient. So to give the complete cure to the patient, the physician must follow all the rules and regulations of homeopathy while practicing the homeopathy or giving the homeopathic medicines to the patient. So this is the philosophical background of second prescription. So in this way, we finished the second prescription, as what is mean by second prescription, what is the need of second prescription, different types of second prescription, and philosophical background of second prescription. So in this way we finished this topic, and for this you have to give the answers as what is mean by second prescription. This is the first question. Then second question, the different types of second prescription. Then third question, need of second prescription. And in this you also give the answers of these questions, that is what are the different types of complementary remedy along with these examples. Then what is mean by antidote, and what are the two types of antidote. The next question is in which aphorism repetition of remedies described. Then what is the indications for repetition of remedy in acute case and in chronic case. Then you have to explain the next question as what is mean by cognate remedies, and what is the difference between cognate remedy and the complementary remedy. And lastly, the points in the philosophical background of second prescription. So these are the different questions for you to answer in the next lecture, that is the regarding the second prescription. So I hope all of you understand. If you have any difficulty, you can ask me personally by message also. So we will stop here. Thank you, friends.